guys, it's Casey, and today we're going to be talking about my July TBR. So to pick the books that I'm going to read for the next month, every month I roll 2 dice to give me a number 1 through 100 to determine a prompt, and then I pick a book that lines up with that prompt. I do this 6 times because that keeps me on goal for my 75 books a year. So that's what we're going to be doing today, but first I want to go ahead and check in on how I did on June's TBR. So these were the 6 books I rolled for June. So the first roll I did was a new release, so I read The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I'm filming this a little bit before the end of the month, so I'm almost done with it. This will be done by the end of the month. Next thing I rolled was a biography or memoir, and for that I read Persepolis Volume 2 by Marjane Satrapi. Then I rolled a YA fantasy and I read Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. Next was a book involving gods, and for that I read Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Then I rolled Weird Book, and for that I read Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. And the final roll I did was hard sci-fi, and for that I was going to read The Three-Body Problem. This one I haven't finished yet. I definitely will have started it by the time the month ends. Hopefully finish it, but it's a little bit iffy on that one. So overall the month of June was probably a success, but either way it's better than the last couple months have gone. So without any further ado, let's start the rolls for July. Roll number 1. $54. So the first roll I got was a 54, and that corresponds to wholesome. And for that I'm going to be reading The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. So this is a graphic novel, fantasy, fairy tale kind of book that follows this prince whose family just wants to get him married off, but he enjoys spending his time dressing up in dresses and going about the town. So this, I think, follows him exploring his identity and his relationship with the dressmaker. And I just know that this is a adorable, wholesome, super sweet graphic novel, and I cannot wait to read it. Roll number 2. $66. So next I rolled a 66, which corresponds to Dark Academia. So for this I'm going to be reading Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I don't know a huge amount about this book, but I know this was wildly popular, especially like last year and the year before. But I believe this follows a girl named Alex Stern who is a freshman at Yale and starts getting involved with some secret society stuff that maybe has some occult nature to it. I know that this is kind of a fantasy book. It's definitely Dark Academia and has some like horror aspects to it. And I believe her goal is to infiltrate a lot of the secret societies at Yale, specifically the 9th secret society, which isn't supposed to exist, I think. Either way, I've heard a ton about this, and I've seen some people really love it and some people not like it as much, so I'm really interested to see where I fall, and I will be reading this in July. Roll number 3. Keep going everywhere. 40. Roll number 3 was a 40, and this is a short book, so a book under 350 pages. And for this, I'm picking kind of a weird one, and that is going to be Edgar Huntley or Memories of a Sleepwalker by Charles Brockden Brown. So this is a classic that I know very little about. What I do know is I am going to be buddy reading it with a couple of my friends this month, and one of my friends read this in college and she absolutely adored it, although she said her entire class hated it and she really just wants to talk about it with us. Another thing is that this has the lowest average rating on my entire Goodreads TBR, so I am very interested to see if I end up liking this, but regardless, it should be fun to discuss with my friend. She says it is an absolutely wild time. Roll number 4. $84. Roll number 4 was an 84, and that is a very hyped book, and for that I'm going to be reading Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I've read Circe by Madeline Miller, but I haven't actually gotten around to this one yet, and I just recently picked it up. So this is a retelling of the Trojan War, specifically focusing on Achilles and his relationship with Patroclus. And to be honest, I don't know much more than that about this book. I know that this is extremely well loved, incredibly hyped. This is one of the books on my TBR that has the most ratings that I haven't read yet. And I've heard it's going to make me cry my eyes out, which I always love from a book. So apparently this is one that's really gonna hit me hard, and I cannot wait to read it this month. I've been looking for an excuse to put this on a TBR for basically a year now. I'm so excited. Number 5. $3. Roll number 5 was a sci-fi, and for this I'm going to be reading Bloodchild and Other Stories by Octavia E. Butler. So this is a collection of sci-fi short stories that another one of my friends actually recommended to me. So I have read Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, but I have not read anything else by her, and I know I really want to read Kindred, but this is one that I just picked up recently. Short stories tend to be really hit or miss with me, like short story collections. I feel like sometimes I don't get as attached to them, or I don't feel as much in a short story as I do in a longer novel or something like that, but I've been really enjoying novellas lately, so I'm hoping that this will kind of transfer into this. But from what I've heard from a couple of my friends, these stories are amazing, and I really loved Parable of the Sower, so I have high hopes for this one, not to mention that this is some classic sci-fi, which is something I've been really trying harder to get into. And last roll, roll number 6. $89. The final roll was an 89, and that is my roommate pick. So she has picked Scarlet by Marissa Meyer because she wants me to continue on with the Lunar Chronicles. She is also the reason I read Cinder in the first place. So the Lunar Chronicles is a young adult sci-fi series that is retellings of different like classic fairy tales, and I think Scarlet is Little Red Riding Hood. But broadly speaking, in the first book, Cinder, which was a Cinderella retelling, it follows a futuristic society in which humans and cyborgs and androids are living on Earth, and there are these group of people living on Luna. And there is a lot of conflict between Luna and Earth, and the first book kind of is very small, focused on Cinder herself and this plague that's been sweeping around Earth as politics between Earth and Luna start to heat up. So I'm hopeful that this one's going to get a little bit more into the politics between Earth and Luna because I did really like that aspect of the book. And I overall liked Cinder, but I have high hopes for this one because my roommate says that it gets even better as the series goes on. So I hope that she's right, and I will be reading this one in July. But these three, plus Edgar Huntley, Scarlet, and The Prince and the Dressmaker, are my official TBR for July. And I've been struggling to get through TBRs the past couple of months. With the semester ending and then me getting ready for a big move, I've been really struggling to stay focused and get a lot of reading done, but there is a bunch of stuff that I really want to get through, especially stuff from other TBRs that I never actually got finished. So if I manage to stay on my reading, there are a couple other things I want to get to this month, and that is Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. I got almost halfway through this and then ended up stopping because the month rolled over and I got behind and I just couldn't get it done. But I'm really enjoying this, and this is the first book in the Tawny Man trilogy, but the 7th book in the realm of the Elderlings overall. I've been loving Robin Hobb, and I'm sad that I've kind of fallen off for a couple months, so I would love to actually get this one done by the end of July to keep going with the series. I'd also like to finish Priory of the Orange Tree. I think this was on May's TBR, and I got like 200 pages in and just stopped. This one wasn't gripping me as much as I wanted it to at first, but I have high hopes and I really want to read more fantasy standalones. Even though this one is huge, I think this is one that I would really like to power through and finish. So this also might be something I pick up in July. The last thing I might pick up in July is a graphic novel called My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. I'm borrowing this from a friend and I'd like to get it back to them before I move. And since I move at the end of July, I really need to get this done if I'm going to read it. So this is something else that I might end up reading this month. Almost definitely won't get all 3 of those read on top of my TBR, but I'm gonna shoot for at least a couple of them. So that is my TBR for July. If you've read any of these before, please let me know down below. I would love to chat with you about them. But I think that's all I've got for you guys today. If you want to keep up with what I'm reading, I have a link to my Goodreads down in the description below. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time.